defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. Now, I hope everybody out there, you guys had a great 4th of July. It's the time that our nation celebrates its independence. But at this point in time, there's there's a lot of economic issues out there, and especially in regards to some states out there. As a nation, yes, we're $20 trillion in debt, but we have our first state that might actually go broke. And of course, that'll be the first of many dominoes to soon follow. But that first state, and if you guys have heard about this, is Illinois. And I'm taking this right from CNN Money. It says, Illinois is on the verge of becoming America's first state with a junk credit rating. The financial mess is the inevitable result of spending more on pensions and services than the state could afford, then covering it up with reckless budget tricks. That doesn't sound familiar, does it? Oh yeah, that's what they're doing there in Illinois. So what they have in Illinois is they're dealing with $15 billion in unpaid bills. And the last 3 years now, they've gone without passing a budget, which by law, they're supposed to have a budget passed. But they haven't. And so they've been on autopilot, and finally right now they're realizing, okay, wow, we're broke. We're not going to be able to pay our bills if we don't get this budget deal through. And so what we had earlier this week, we had the state Senate of Illinois. They passed a budget deal. And then it went to the Governor Rauner of Illinois. He's a Republican governor, and he vetoed the bill. He did not like the bill. Basically, the bill that was passed by a majority of Democrats in the Senate, it's made up of a lot of tax increases. And then the Republican governor, there's some quotes from him. He's saying like, hey, this is not going to address our issues. This is going to create more problems because you're not going to get the growth when you increase taxes, which I certainly agree with things like that. But first and foremost, what you need to do, as I've talked many times on this show, and as I talk in not just about states, but as the United States in general, is that we need the government to cut spending. The government is spending way too much damn money. And that's a problem with Illinois, but they're refusing to really cut spending in a meaningful way. So what we just had on this 4th of July in Illinois is the state Senate in Illinois. They passed a budget deal to try to basically protect the state from going broke and achieving its, well, I guess it's not really achieving, but getting that junk level status for their bond rating, which is telling bondholders, hey, this is not a good investment. There's a lot of risk in it, and you might not get your money back. So in this bill that the Senate approved, it's a $36 billion spending plan. And in this bill, there's a permanent 32% income tax increase from current levels. And the governor, who's a Republican, yeah, obviously he's against this. Raising taxes that much, that is a pretty drastic increase. And you think about it, and everyone out there, you guys know this, where here you have, we're already getting killed on the federal level in terms of taxes. When I'm talking on this show about taxes in general, I'm just talking about federal taxes. I'm not talking about state taxes. So the type of abuse we're getting from the federal government, here's the state of Illinois. It's like, yeah, we're broke. Okay, I guess we want to keep spending money like we are before. So if we want to, pay for our spending habits, we're just going to increase income taxes in the state by 32%. Now we have the House Speaker. His name is Michael Madigan, and he's a Democrat. And what he has scheduled is this Thursday, so that would be July 6th, so just tomorrow, is that he wants to override the veto of the governor because he wants this budget bill to go through. So in general, if you're kind of looking at this, you're not really paying attention to what's going on in Illinois. The Democrats overwhelmingly, they want this budget deal through. They don't want the state to go broke, and yeah, they want to, keep in their increased spending. Yeah, they have made some compromises. There are some very, very small cuts, but it's not enough. But it's just a drastic increase in taxes, and they also increase the corporate tax by some amount. I can't remember what that is. I'll get to that a little bit later here. Let's bounce back to the CNN Money piece. And it says, the budget crisis has forced Illinois to jack up property taxes so high that people are leaving in droves. Illinois may soon have to take the unprecedented step of cutting off sales of lottery tickets because the state won't be able to pay winners. Illinois got to this financial treacherous place by ignoring the long-term consequences of short-term decision-making, said Lawrence Massall, the president of Civic Federation, a budget watchdog organization. The budget crisis has crippled social services that survive on state money, hurting everyone from mental health services and Meals on Wheels for homebound seniors to domestic violence support centers. Quote, the most vulnerable citizens in Illinois are being hurt the most severely, Massall said. Well, okay, that right there, what I just read, that is stuff I've talked about on this show for the longest time, pointing out how the government, they're the most short-term looking people out there. They're always kicking the can down the road. And the people who get hurt the most during these crisis situations are those people who rely on government. And that's what I just read here. And just that quote right there from that Massall character. The most vulnerable citizens, the poor in Illinois, they're being hurt the most severely. And so that's like when I talk about in this next crisis that's coming, you got to protect yourself because guess what? The government is not going to protect you. You got to have personal responsibility. That's the only way you're going to get out of this. That's why it's so great for listeners of this show. You guys have taken personal responsibility. You understand no one else has your back but you. And that's why listeners of my show here, you guys are going to make it through this just fine. It's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you're going to get through it. And just continue on with this CNN piece. The most glaring evidence is the enormous pension crisis. Rather than dealing with the problem, Illinois continued to reward the state's powerful unions with generous benefits. The problem festered for so long that Moody's estimates Illinois has unfunded pension liabilities totaling $251 billion. To put that into context, that's more than the combined market value of 4 major Illinois companies: Boeing, Caterpillar, United Airlines, and Allstate. And then, now here, get this quote right here, continuing on with the CNN Money piece. The massive pension liability results from a chronic tendency to defer difficult decisions, end quote, said Ted Hampton, who as a senior credit officer at Moody's will help decide whether to downgrade Illinois into junk. Hampton said Illinois treated the pension fund as a financial cushion that could be relied on to provide fiscal relief. He also pointed to a tendency to delay paying bills and to chronically underestimate spending needs. Wow. So what I just read, that quote there from that Ted Hampton guy. The massive pension liability results from a chronic tendency to defer difficult decisions. That, my friends, is called kicking the can down the road. That is exactly what politicians do on the federal level, and that's what they're doing on a state level there in Illinois. And they're broke. And here, and also what that Hampton guy said, that Illinois treated the pension fund as a financial cushion. Huh. Isn't that what the federal government today is doing with Social Security? This supposed lockbox that they had? Oh yeah, it's there. Don't worry about it. No, the government has been spending it. Just like what the little fools over in Illinois were doing. They were using their pension fund to pay bills in the general fund. I mean, that's why would you ever trust politicians with money? Why? That's what I don't get. These guys, time and time again, they will always let you down. Don't give them your money. Man, why aren't more people libertarians? Actually, I think a lot of people out there are libertarians. They just don't know it. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that reality. It's like, wait. Man, these guys are clowns. Yeah, why would I trust these guys with my money? And that's why it's so important. And you see polls and more people have more mistrust of government. That is good for our movement. That's what we need. If the average person trusted government officials and thought they were trying to do, things for the greater good, that's not good. That's when you lose a lot of liberty. Because people just trust what the politicians are saying. But when they don't trust the politicians, that's good. Because it's making it harder for them to get away with the things that they are. But they're still getting away with it. But eventually it's going to come to a point that, it'll be a revolution is kind of the way we're heading. And let's just continue on here with this CNN Money piece. Experts said the turning point may have been in 1995. At that point, Illinois already had one of the worst funded pension systems in the United States. State leaders took action by adopting a 50-year plan to get the pension plans 90% funded. But that plan turned out to be badly flawed. The initial contributions were too modest, and Illinois didn't make the politically difficult choices of tax hikes or spending cuts to get the budget on a sustainable path. Quote, "It was one of the greatest pieces of chicanery ever pulled by a political system," said Ralph Mateer, executive director at the Center for Tax and Budget Accountability, a think tank that promotes social and economic justice. Instead of reform, the compromise codified the practice of underfunding the pension and intentionally grew the shortfall by $45 billion, Mateer said. Now, yeah, with a lot of these pensions in these states, they figure that, oh yeah, we'll get like returns of 7-8% a year, which is drastically overstating what you're going to get in terms of returns for these funds. So that right there is part of the reason there's shortfalls. In all the states in the union, they're all having issues with pensions. And that's also kind of funny what I just read earlier on in this paragraph here, where back in 1995, you had Illinois, they were working on and they adopted a 50-year plan to get their pensions so it won't be a problem in the future. Well, politicians, short-term thinking, not long-term thinking, and they underfund it, and they don't really go along with their path. I mean, you can't commit other politicians to your plan that you approved back when you were in office. That's why it's a pain in the butt when the Republicans act like they want to cut spending in the future. They got their 10 years. Oh yeah, we're going to balance the budget in 10 years. But they don't want to implement any spending cuts until 5 years out, let's say. But that future Congress isn't accountable to what the plan that they made there. So it's all these little games that politicians are playing, and that's what they've been doing in Illinois for years. And then, and continuing on with this piece, get this: Illinois is also notorious for using one-time financial tricks that mask the scale of its growing fiscal problems. Republicans and Democrats would stand up and say they passed a balanced budget, but it wasn't, and they knew it, said Deanna Rickert, Vice President of Communications at the Illinois Policy Institute, a free market-oriented think tank. Rickert said either the politicians knew what they were doing or they don't know how math works. Lately, Illinois has been unable to reach a budget deal at all. Illinois has the distinction of being the first state ever to operate without a budget for more than a year, according to Massal. So now here we have in the recent news that it looks like they will get a compromise bill through so that they can avoid this junk bond status. And so the general feeling out there is, okay, so if Illinois can just pass this budget, they're going to override the governor's veto and they will get this budget through. And the general thinking is, okay, hey, we get this budget, our state is not going to default, there's going to be a brighter day tomorrow and things are going to be just fine and we can continue on like there's no problem. Like, hey, here's these superhero politicians, they beat the bad guy. They got it, they passed that budget, we're good. But no, that's the general thinking. But even with this budget deal, Moody's is saying that they still might downgrade Illinois anyway. Because it says here in the CNN Money piece, even though the budget deal would raise $5 billion in revenue by boosting corporate and individual tax rates, it does little to address the pension time bomb that built up over many years as the state's powerful unions negotiated better benefits and lawmakers failed to pay for them. So far, the plan appears to lack concrete measures that will materially improve Illinois' long-term capacity to address its unfunded pension liabilities, Moody's wrote. And so here we have this budget deal. They're not even addressing, on a serious note, the unfunded liabilities issue in terms of the pensions. So what the hell are they thinking? Well, I mean, that's the typical politicians. They're kicking the can down the road yet again. That's what they're doing. And if we actually take a step back and let's not just look at Illinois and their problem with unfunded liabilities and their pensions are, totaling $260 billion. I mean, it's huge. But if we look at the U.S. right now, we're looking at unfunded liabilities, if you figure in pensions, Social Security, at $107 trillion. That's where we're at in the United States. Now, if you figure that out, what is that per citizen, our unfunded liabilities? That comes up to $887,000 per citizen of unfunded liabilities. Future costs that are going to be coming to the government's doorstep that they haven't paid for. But they said, oh, you're going to get it. Yes, you're going to get your Social Security, your Medicare, Medicaid, your pension, your federal pension. But no. So what's going on in Illinois right now, this is just a microcosm. Just like on the show when I talk about and I point out what's going on in Venezuela, it's like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is the way the United States is headed, the way of Venezuela. When Illinois is showing us in our own United States of America, here's a state that's on the verge of collapse right here. Here's the state on the verge of bankruptcy because of unfunded liabilities mostly and out of control government spending. And it's not much longer until the United States, we face this crisis and we're going to have to deal with it straight up. We're not just going to be able to kick the can down the road anymore. We're going to run into a wall and the can's going to fly back at us. And at that point, when they can't kick the can down the road any farther because they've lost all credibility, you know what happens at that point? That is when the government's like, okay, well, we got to pay for it. Okay, let's print money. Let's print lots of money. And that is what they will do because the states can't do that. They have to deal with it honestly. But the United States, they paper it over and they're going to destroy the value of the currency. All the money you have in savings, it's going to get wiped out because of these politicians refusing to take these matters seriously. It has to get to a crisis. That's the only way that we will deal with these issues. They don't want to deal with it. I mean, yeah, we make fun of the politicians in Washington, D.C., all the time. Like they're just the only butt heads around, If we just got rid of those 435 members in Congress, and the 100 senators, then if we just replace them, then we could, then everything would be fine in our country. But no, looking at this piece right here and what's going on in Illinois, there's a bunch of butt heads there and there too. I mean, they're all over the place. They're in your state. They're in my state. These guys are a dime a dozen. And when you throw them out, they're replaced by other ones. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some good ones out there, like the Rand Pauls and Ted Cruz's and Mike Lee's, all those guys. But there's not enough. And also, I guess I should mention in regards to this budget deal. So yeah, they're not really addressing the public pensions and as a way of reforming them in a way that they need to actually so that it can be sustainable in the future. They're also setting aside millions and millions of dollars in this new budget deal to fund universities and colleges. Like right here. It says, the spending plan sets aside $365 million for universities and colleges to use to cover the scholarships they advanced to low-income students earlier this year. The budget includes $400 million for the scholarships to pay for tuition for classes starting this fall. The package also would restore funding to schools like Northeastern Illinois University in North Park that was forced to lay off employees to cover a $17 million shortfall created in the budget impasse. Okay, well, we see today, as the government has really put its heavy hand in college these last few decades, how the value of the college degree has been destroyed. Going to college does not help you out. It just gets you more in debt. Well, now here's the state that's broke, and they're still trying to fund these universities. Like, oh yeah, this is a great investment. We're investing in our future. We're investing in the children. No, quit doing that. All these activities you think the government is the only one that can provide for and that can make things... I mean, it's this idea with all these politicians in general that without them, the world wouldn't turn. That it is them that makes the world go around. It is such a bunch of hooey. And that's why once people really understand the truth and understand the free market and how things happen naturally and amazing how things work just through a voluntary exchange, one person for the other, and how it's not a win-lose situation like most people think, that it's really a win-win in terms of exchange. And if people just understood how a free market works, and if we actually went back to true capitalism, and we were actually on a gold standard where governments really couldn't get out of control, couldn't get out of control because the gold standard shackles the government and keeps it from growing. Because of the built-in restraints with the gold standard system. We have none of that today. Fiat money, okay, we can print more at any time we want. And it has got us to the mess we are in today. And it's coming. That the day of reckoning is fast approaching. And what are you guys going to do? Is your state next to go broke? Could be. Illinois is just the first domino of many to fall. And the United States is going to come down too because of out of control government. So protect yourself, my friends. I should say, guys, with Freedom Fest just 2 weeks away, I did finish the bonus episode. I have it all done. I just got to convert it to MP3 and get the link all set up and everything. And I will send that out to people who have donated to my show. So if you guys can donate to my show, if you send me $50, I will tell you how to save hundreds and hundreds of dollars going to Vegas. And I point out a strategy to get you there to the convention. Oh man, you can be there. It's like basically you're staying at the Paris hotel, but you'll save over $200 just in the room rate. And so I will do that, guys. So it's definitely, it'd be a good investment for you guys. And I also point out, and I send you guys some updates, and I also talk about credit cards that I use that are the best bang for the buck, ones you've never heard of. Just all sorts of great stuff is in that new bonus episode. Again, that is for people who have donated to my show. You donate $50 to my PayPal, or if you even sign up for Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom, and you sign up through my link, you just got to send me an email like, hey, Justin, I purchased Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom through your link, and I will send you the bonus episodes. And you can also buy your Amazon goods through my little link up there too. That costs you nothing extra. And it's a way to help me out. So anyway, guys, I thank you so much for being here. I will talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.